It was summer's longest day, and the sky was holding its breath, the dry heat suspended above their heads like a tethered veil. The three young women sat cross-legged in the grass, their shadows long behind them as the sun softly dropped from its high arch.
Creativity. It's a complex phenomenon that involves generating new ideas or concepts. It's a uniquely human trait that is often associated with intelligence and innovation.
An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. iPhone.
Creativity is a relatively new topic in psychology, and the aim of looking at creativity scientifically is to develop models of how creative people think. The processes behind being creative, being in different settings and in different contexts. But in the world of scientific studies, it's often too easy to accept these new theories at face value. And I wanted to go beyond that.
My name is Cassandra Harrison. I've been teaching art for about 20 years.
I'm an illustrator, freelance illustrator and painter.
I'm a third-year architecture student.
I wanted to see how the psychological theories of creativity express themselves in everyday, real-life people.
Feeling creative.
Beyond the confines of a laboratory or a research paper, how is creativity actually exhibited in the lives of ordinary people? I would call myself a creative person, but when it comes to studying creativity as a subject of science, I was really starting from nothing. And one of the best ways to get a grasp of the topic is to look at how we got to where we are today. It's kind of silly to say, but I never really thought about how creativity is embedded in human history. The ancient Greeks, for example, had no terms corresponding to being a creator. Instead, the understanding of art involved subjugating to laws and rules.
Greek sculptors were obsessed with creating what they considered perfect forms.
An artist was viewed more as a discoverer, not an inventor. The ideas of imagination and inspiration began to be applied to the visual arts in the Roman times, and throughout following periods like the Christian period and the Renaissance, art and creativity was more shaped by the cultural, philosophical, and religious influences. In the Renaissance era, artists were viewed more as an originator of ideas. In this period, we had figures like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo that spoke of art as a realization of the artist's vision, rather than a mere imitation of nature. The idea of art as a domain of creativity continued to evolve into the 18th and 19th centuries. And around the 20th century was when creativity had expanded beyond the realms of art to include sciences and nature.
How is it related to creativity?
One of the ideas for like a computer that could be put into it was this one by Ned Block, I think.
And then we come to the mid-20th century. This is when creativity was really studied as a subject of science. Theories were being made, models were being created. Researchers just got really curious about what was going on inside people's heads when they were being creative. And it was actually one of these really early theories of creativity that kind of inspired this project. In his book called The Art of Thought, Graham Wallace presented one of the earliest theories of creativity. His theory breaks down the process of being creative into 4 stages. Stage 1 is the preparation stage, and it's all about collecting information. Creative ideas don't just appear out of nowhere. They're always a sort of solution to a problem. Stage 2 is the incubation stage, and this is when you step back from the problem and let your mind wander. Stage 3 is the illumination stage. This is the stage where everything sort of clicks together. You can kind of look at it as the eureka moment. And stage 4 is the verification stage, and this is when you expand on the idea to make sure it's useful. So when it came to designing this project, I kind of thought, what if we gave everyone the same quote from a poem or a book and asked them to create anything from it? And we could look at people from different creative backgrounds and look at people in different settings, just to see whether these 4 stages of the creative process actually show up. And more recent papers on the psychology of creativity suggest that someone's creativity could be impacted by their motivation to be creative or their creative setting, whether they be a musician or in an art class.
Although a lot of ice cream in there. That's a lot of ice cream. We're all gonna have ice cream.
So this Let's Draw Something Fun session is to help people get back into their creativity, and it's supposed to be very light. We're not taking ourselves seriously, and we're here to have fun and just enjoy creating art in community.
So, unlike Cassandra, I don't know any of you.
So the main goal of this art class was to compare people's initial reaction to the stimulus to their final drawing. Basically, by laying out this process, we could analyse it and see whether these creative stages were present.
Let me hand out all the pencils, and then when they see that, when you see that those words, just whatever comes to your mind, draw it or doodle it or write out.
And the short answer? Yes, they were. It was really interesting to see that because of the nature of this art class and the structure of how everything was laid out. We kind of saw the preparation and incubation stages happening at the same time.
You can still use the black because it will make the colors pop. So I'll do a couple little demonstrations here.
People were gathering new knowledge by learning about oil pastels and techniques they could do with them, but also subconsciously tying their initial ideas to what they were going to draw at the end. I found this paper that talks about the effects of someone's environment on their creativity, basically saying that people could be stimulated by things around them, like pot plants, and this may benefit aspects of the creative process. In this case, people were stimulated by the tools used for learning, like oil pastels. Also, because of it being an art class, there was one main thing I noticed.
I'm gonna do a cat with sunshades in a swimming pool.
I want to come to your part then for the summer. That's much better than my part.
People were talking to each other. As everyone was discussing their ideas among themselves, this interaction aligns with the componential theory of creativity, which builds upon these creative processes and adds other components such as someone's motivation to be creative, their relevant skills, and also a person's external factors such as their social environment. Interestingly, even though people were talking about the same stimulus, there was still some variation to what their final drawing was.
Like fireworks behind the castle. My first thought was just like tons of people.
That's what I think of. Yeah, blue sky and green trees. That's nice.
This embodies the dual pathway model to creativity, which emphasizes cognitive flexibility. So basically, if someone felt more positively towards the stimulus or not. However, I did find this paper that talked about the downsides to working in a group. When people are talking to each other, the social environment may lead them to conform and produce maybe similar ideas. And we did see that a little bit in the art class.
It's interesting how different everyone's answers were, but then obviously like some similarities. But
yeah, I think there was a lot of ice cream, wasn't there?
Overall, looking at this art class was really informative. We could definitely see these creativity theories being exhibited, but of course, because of it being a group setting and also it being an art class, I felt it was also important to see whether people working individually and without the preconception of knowing that we're going to specifically draw something would still bring out these creativity theories.
Creativity is the expression of whatever you feel inside coming out through a medium that is not just talking.
When it came to asking people about their creativity, there was one main thing I noticed. A lot of people view creativity artistically and as a form of self-expression. But if you compare that to psychology, the definition of creativity is looking at whether an idea is both useful and novel. But with the wide diversity of people that I got to partake in this project, it just made me wonder, how can psychology even begin to measure creativity? There are a few tests in psychology that measure creativity, such as the divergent thinking test, where you look at how many ideas someone generates and you rate them with how unique and useful they are. Basically, with these tests in psychology, you'll have a hypothesis, like someone's motivation towards a task affects how creative their solution is going to be. Then you find or create a test that looks at specifically how motivated someone is and their creativity. Basically, by isolating and defining what you're measuring, you can begin to see the effect that one might have on the other. But the main thing I got out of this project was that there wasn't one theory that applied to everyone. It was more, this theory applies in this context, and this theory applies in this other context. For example, someone could be creative as a form of taking a break from everyday life, and some people are just creative for their professional lives.
Illustrator and painter, but I also work in art gallery and shop that supports local community artists.
What would you say are you looking for when you're looking for something for the shop?
Well, that's an interesting question because I think each of us has a little bit different approach towards art, and I think I'm looking for more abstract prints and paintings, and also publishing things, so like books, zines. I'm really obsessed about that. So it's like when we really like artwork, it's easier for us to sell it.
Yeah. How would, let's say, the creativity in your personal life interact?
Personal stuff. Yeah. Oh yes, okay. So I don't know, it just helps me to also helps me to have this, I don't know, better mood a little bit because it's very playful. And by being creative, I'm just kind of discovering new recipe or just doing new stuff, new ways. So it opened my mind a little bit. So for sure it affects to the professional life.
I think because creativity is still new in the world of psychology, we're still trying to define the parameters of what can we consider creative. And that's why we've got all these theories and models defining specifically what motivation affects creativity and what personality traits affect creativity. But what I got out of this project was that these theories do appear, but sometimes they coincide with each other, or sometimes one theory might not show up at all in someone. But the main thing that was really exciting about this project was seeing that if I took away all these restraints and all these parameters and just got people to create anything, what would their processes be and what would they make?
I think for me, I always attribute summer in Edinburgh to being surrounded by nature, and I wanted to reflect that through utilising bird sounds as somewhat of a textural element.
Today I set out writing the song for this project, and the brief was summer in Edinburgh vibes.
I had an idea in mind of what I was going to make, and I knew that I wanted to make a small cup or beaker to do with the stimulus. I'm thinking I don't know how I'm gonna capture it when the weather's bad. I suppose it is the feeling of being in Edinburgh during the summer.
I don't know, summer in Edinburgh is good, but it's just, it never feels like it's been I don't know how to describe it. I did a sad song basically.
But I really wanted the form to show how playful and creative a summer in Edinburgh is. Creativity to me means a mix of different media. So I'm not someone who can stick to just one thing like drawing or painting. I find my creative flow lies in mixing different things or using different things alongside each other.
I think personally, this project aligns with the intrinsic motivation hypothesis as a theory of creativity, as I found myself being more creative and motivated to progress as time went on.
But here we are, pouching our scars that we left. And I guess that what we had will probably never happen again.
This is the moment where I think everything clicked.
I can't even speak. So I've just listened to one of the songs someone's just sent in to me, and when I set out to do a project like this, I just...
That is pretty good.
This is probably one of the last things I'll get to submit for my psychology degree, and so that's why I kind of went a little bit full out, and we actually did it. We've done it. It takes a lot to do a project like this. It takes people to film, people to volunteer to be part of it.
Hustle and bustle, okay. And you kind of know, can you see the idea forming in your head, or can you...
In terms of the song?
Or like whatever you're gonna create?
Yeah!
Yeah?
I've got the vibe.
Okay.
Thank you very much. That was really good because we had a really good conversation before this about creativity, and yeah, I just thought that was really interesting.
The meadowism influence from that is definitely a part of it.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Cool. I think that's about it.
Where should we look? Camera?
So, I think, of course, there's the main takeaway to this project, but my main takeaway from uni is the fact that I would not be here 4 years later without the people I've met.
I said I liked your shirt. You said it's boyfriend material. I couldn't help but flirt, wishing on something I didn't need at all. Talking about nothing for hours in the dark. Every Saturday, always the last in the park. That's where we'd stay. Gave me a puffer jacket, fake North Face, so I'd never be cold. But here we are, patching up scars that we left. And I guess that what we had will probably never happen again. So come get your stuff from my place. I left the key in the door so I don't see your face. Your jacket's in there, I packed it all. Guess it was never a boyfriend